What are some of the things that you feel defines your life? Like those core memories that you can never really seem to get rid of? Was it opening an incredible birthday present? Going on a family trip? For me, it's something a bit more unique. I remember being about 8 years old visiting my grandparents' place. My brother and I used to stay the night about once a week. While we were there, we used to stay up so late at night, and my uncle would play all these different games, from Halo to Gears of War to Zelda. It was the time I spent there that greatly impacted my tastes in media. From Yu Yu Hakusho to Twilight Princess, I remember those days fondly, but there's one thing that I remember that has stuck with me well beyond everything else. It was this Wii game, of all things, but not Super Mario Galaxy or even something more obscure like Okami. Instead, at that young age, I was introduced to one of my favorite series of all time, Resident Evil 4. Well, Resident Evil's the series, but you know what I mean. But while RE4 was the first game in the series I played, it most certainly wasn't the last. This series has left a heavy impression on me, from the decaying streets of Raccoon City to the backwater swamps of Louisiana. And out of all places this series has taken me, none are truly as incredible, as creepy, and as iconic as Spencer Mansion. Now, I'll be entirely honest, this video has been incredibly tough for me to make. Resident Evil's remake has been one of my favorite games of all time for years now. Ever since I first finished it way back in 2015, I knew it was special, a game that's near unparalleled in quality, and that I wanted to make a video on it. But back then, my videos used to look like this.
You can go suck a big one, people. Oh, my voice cracks.
Which means that an RE video would have been downright awful. Years later, in 2022, I actually made a script for Resident Evil. See, I had planned to do this whole thing called RE-sember, where it's like Christmas, but Resident Evil themed. I'd cover all the numbered games and write scripts for them all. Now, this was incredibly stupid, especially because circa 2022, I hadn't even posted a scripted video once. The first scripted video I posted was that first Andy and Leyley video, which, by the way, the second video was my very first one to hit 10k views, so thank you very much for supporting my videos. But the point being, I now have some experience with script writing, and I'm ready to tackle my favorite horror game of all time on this very special day. We're going to explore all 4 Resident Evil remakes that have been released so far with a new video every week, starting with this one. And what better day to release a video on one of my favorite video games than on my birthday? So, with all that out of the way, let's take a look at what this game has to offer. Before the game really gets to start, we get to choose which one of the 2 main characters we get to play as, and they actually have a fair bit of differences. First up is lovable resident meathead Chris Redfield, but this isn't the big-ass brick shit house that we've all become too familiar with as the series progresses, but a younger and far less jaded version of the boulder-punching asshole we'd see years down the line. Next up is the character that we'll be using to experience the story, Jill Valentine. Unlike her thing going on in the Resident Evil 3 remake,
Bitch can't even swim.
this version of Jill is, just like Chris, a lot more earnest and honestly a lot more enjoyable to see than what she would inevitably be turned into over 2 decades later. But we'll get to that when we get there. The game starts off with this absolutely amazing cutscene. We get a news report talking about the recent reports and discussion about how the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, or STARS, Bravo team has seemingly gone missing, and now it's up to Alpha Team to seek them out. We see things through Joseph Frost's, Alpha Team's Omni-Man, camera footage. And this part where he gets attacked by the Cerberus is deliciously horrifying. But despite Frost being torn to shreds, the remaining members of Alpha Team make their way to the only location that seems safe from the raging beasts, the Spencer Mansion. And it's here where the absolute best line in a horror game ever is written out, and the inspiration of the title of this video. Right here, where we get to see the door open loading screen and the words at the bottom read, "Enter the survival horror." Alpha Team successfully makes their way into the mansion, but someone is missing. In Chris's route, it's Barry, but here in Jill's timeline, Chris has suddenly disappeared. The remaining STARS members decide to split up, with Captain Albert Wesker deciding to take the East Wing, while Jill and Barry Burden take the West Wing. And oh my god, I love Barry. But we'll be seeing him a lot throughout Jill's story, so we'll get to talk about him a bit more in detail in the future. But for now, just know that he's the best character in this game, and it isn't even close. The duo make their way into the dining hall, where they find a pool of blood in front of the fireplace.
I think you'd better take a look at this.
What is it?
Blood. Jill, see if you can find any other clues. I'll be examining this. Let's just hope it's not Chris's.
And it's here where we get to see the most iconic thing this game and this series has ever created. That's such a wonderful cutscene that sets up the atmosphere that this game goes for perfectly. And thankfully for us, it's here where we get the first instance of Jill privilege over Chris. As Jill, we can make our way back to the dining room to have Barry take care of it. And hey, an extra cutscene where we get to experience with Barry is always nice. After this is when the game really starts to open up to us. We get to explore around the mansion a bit and get to really immerse ourselves. So, while we wait for the next important story beat to happen, let's talk a bit more about the game itself, shall we? Let's start with combat, because it's the simplest part of this game. Because Resident Evil is entirely based around fixed camera angles, there isn't actually an aiming system like you'll see with the following remakes. Instead, you can aim in the ways low, normal, and high. Shooting at a normal height is how you shoot things from distance or to just pop a zombie square in his chest. Shooting low allows you to hit zombies you've knocked down as well as any Cerberus that might be closing in on you. As for aiming high, there aren't really many enemies that you'll need to aim high for, and this could just be me and my confirmation bias, but I found that it lets you get more headshots on enemies that are dangerously close. Other than that though, combat will mostly be defined by whatever weapon you use, and Jill actually gets most of her weapons in this first mansion visit, so you'll actually be kitted out really early on. Jill starts the game with a knife and a handgun, the STARS custom Samurai Edge, but you'll pretty quickly find more. You can get the shotgun from this room here that we'll talk about in a little bit, the grenade launcher from a dead Bravo team member, and pretty soon after leaving the mansion, you'll get access to the Magnum, meaning that with proper know-how and resource management, your fears and woes will be met with the entire military might of a mid-90s police department. God bless the US of A, am I right? But moving on from the human urge to turn any creature into a red mist, let's talk about the puzzles of the game. I always tell people to think about Resident Evil as more of a puzzle game than a game where you shoot zombies, and I really stand by that. A lot of the puzzles, while pretty simple, are fun and enjoyable. Some of the harder puzzles can really give your brain a scratch, and once you get to the later parts of the game, it can even be one of those games where you find yourself writing down notes on a napkin or a piece of paper, like I did here. Remember when games used to make you do that? The good old days. But let's get back to the story a bit, shall we? We get to explore a bit of the mansion and find ourselves trapped in a room where we nab the shotgun. No way out, this is looking like it means sure death for Jill, but who else but Barry shows up to save the day and gives us a nice homage to the Jill sandwich line from the original. We then get to do a bit more exploring, shoot a dog for a fake key so that we can use it to Indiana Jones swap the real key, and meet the next friendly face we see, Richard Eichen of STARS Bravo team. He got poisoned by some large snake, so we need to make our way back to an earlier save room so we can grab some serum and make it back to save his life before he dies of the venom in his system. Now this is the first and really only time the game tests your knowledge of the mansion like this, and it's easily one of my favorite parts of this game. We only have a certain amount of time before Richard dies, and while the timer is generous, getting to the serum save room and back creates a good amount of stress, especially if you haven't been clearing out all these rooms already by this point. With a quick jog to and from the serum room, we are able to save Richard, letting him rest in this room.
Here, Richard. I'm gonna give you a shot. Hang in there.
Jill, here's my radio. Take it. Does it ever not hurt?
We do a bit more exploring, where we now have to deal with a new type of enemy, the Crimson Heads. We actually met the first one on our way to get the armor key, and they're pretty cool. See, when you take down a zombie, unless you get a headshot, the zombie will simply fall to the floor and lie there. And it'll lie there, and it'll lie there. And if you don't come back and burn the body while it's in this state, it'll be reborn as a far more dangerous and aggressive Crimson Head. They're fast and will take deadly swipes at you with their claws, but at the very least, they're not tanky. After all, it's a corp that had already died a second time, so the third time's the charm. If that charm was a 12 gauge and fired buckshot. But for now, it's puzzle time as we clear up this first mansion visit. We struggled a lot more than we should with this puzzle whose solution I can never remember, no matter how long I spend playing this video game, from a concerto to a room of my adoring fans. Sacrifice Richard to the snake named Yawn so that we can take a shotgun. Take a small detour to get some serum for Jill because we got bit by Yawn trying to grab said shotgun. And finally we take these 4 masks and place them into these indents, which I actually want to go into just a little bit more detail, since this is kind of like the main overarching puzzle of this first mansion visit. So very early on in the game, you have to make your way to this catacomb to get access to the sword key. This area has this big spooky coffin and 4 carved stone faces, each with certain features missing. As you traverse the mansion, you'll find masks that fit perfectly into each stone face. First one can be found in this room with a plant. To get the mask, all you need to do is take some chemicals and add it to the water to wilt the plant. The next mask can be obtained during the Yawn encounter at the end of the room. The next mask is just kind of lying on the ground after solving this puzzle to create a shortcut to the East Wing first floor. It's pretty simple, but a fulfilling puzzle nonetheless. The final mask is in this jewelry box in this stupid armor puzzle room! But it's fine. It's fine. We have all the masks now. After placing them all in the proper places, the coffin comes down and locks us in with this guy, the Elder Crimson Head. But despite having more health than the average Crimson Head, this guy still acts the same. So a couple of shots from our charm takes him down. And with his death, we can take the object from his coffin and make our way out of the mansion and into the next section of the game. The Residence. Now, as a heads up, this section of the game tends to be a little more fucky in terms of pacing. So buckle up, kiddos, we're about to get into it. We make our way to this hidden shack, doing a quick puzzle to pick up the Magnum along the way, and we pick up this crank. But unfortunately for us, theft is still theft, even if you got a police badge. So the resident 4chan user bashes us over the head, but seeing that Jill is a woman, they decide to keep us around for their creepy My Little Pony x My Hero Academia live fanfic reading. This is Lisa Trevor, and all jokes aside for a moment, she's the greatest thing this remake added. Her design, both visual and auditory, are absolutely disturbing in the best way possible. I'll talk about it more in my closing thoughts, but to jump ahead just a little bit, I really don't find this game scary, but Lisa Trevor takes this statement and for a few special moments, turns it on its head in the most atmospheric manner I could ever think of for a game like this. But for now, we escape her cabin and take that crank to this path that was once filled with water, through this small corridor filled with snakes, to where we can now enter the residence proper. Now, the first thing you might notice when walking through this area is that there's a tentacle that tries to wrap around Jill's throat every time you walk through this section. Thankfully, there's these conveniently placed boxes that allow us to crawl over it without worry. But more importantly, it's the next room over where we find the proper instances of Barry not being all he seems. There were a few moments prior to this, like the Jill sandwich cutscene, but it's here where the seeds are properly sown, where Jill listens in on him talking to somebody about his family and the destruction of stars, as well as some sort of deal he made. But when Jill enters the room and tries to talk to Barry, he just brushes us off and leaves us to our own devices. After getting a key to a room earlier, taking a small detour to talk with Wesker, and picking up yet another key in said room, We make our way back to the room where Barry was and head down to this hidden ladder to make our way into my favorite area of this entire game, the Neptune tank. This is, admittedly, a really short part of the game, but god damn if it isn't special in my heart. Let's start with the absolute best part of this area, the music. Neptune tank. The piece of music is, like the area, incredibly simple. It's only 4 notes on the forefront with foreboding ambiance, but it's also just majestic? I don't know how else to describe it, but this track just makes me feel good in my soul. Now, if it was just the music being good, that wouldn't make this location special. This game already has a bunch of great pieces to begin with, but what helps complement the ambient track here is the big set piece, Neptune the shark. Now, Neptune is a pretty simple concept in practice. There are a few smaller sharks in this tank that can damage you, and if you're too slow to go to where you need to go, Neptune will come at you and one-shot you. But that's not all. Once you make it to this control room, you need to pull some of the levers to remove the water from the tank. But after you attempt to do this, one of the pressure protection doors jams, and Neptune attempts to break into the control room. The room then goes critical, and you need to quickly adjust the oil in these tanks to restart the pressure protection system and drain the water properly. I can't believe I got that on my first try. Now, this part isn't hard by any means. You get plenty of time to deal with the situation, but it doesn't rate the absolute stress this scene always causes me. But thankfully after this, we get to push a generator onto the Goliath of a shark and electrocute it to death so that we can get this key to go deeper into the residence. We use this key for the gallery room and deal with this mildly inconvenient bug problem this room has to pick up yet another key and solve a short puzzle to reach the next boss of the game, Plant 42. Or at least it would be the next boss if our next example of Jill privilege wasn't right here. A room earlier, we can actually solve a puzzle using these vials to create a chemical called V-Jolt, which we can spread across the plant's roots in the Neptune tank to actually skip this boss fight entirely. You know, I've mentioned it before and now as well, but this game is what I like to call Jill privilege. See, while there are ups and downs to playing as either Chris or Jill, it's very clear that Jill was some kind of favorite for the devs because she's just better than Chris in every way. She gets to have Barry to deal with entire situations that Chris would have to solve on his own, like the shotgun room or Plant 42. Her unique weapon in the grenade launcher is far more versatile and just downright superior to the flamethrower. And as a cherry on top, Jill just straight up has 2 extra slots over Chris. Meaning that even if we take Chris's unique item, the lighter, into account, Jill still has 1 extra slot over Chris at any given point. But this is just my opinion. As far as I know, speedrunners could prefer Chris for some reason I'm not well versed enough to understand. But in the meantime, our time here at the residence has come to a close, and we can make our way back to the mansion for our second visit. As we make our way back to the East Wing, we get this absolutely horrifying cutscene of me at 2 AM on my way to my local gas station for more Four Locos, and we're introduced to a new creature to encounter, the Hunters. These guys are dangerous, far more than any other normal enemy in the game, but just as long as you keep your distance and use the full might of the police, you'll be just fine. We explore the mansion a little more, solving a few puzzles along the way, and before long we find ourselves facing the next boss, Yawn, but for real this time. Now, this fight is actually really easy. There's a conveniently placed bookshelf here that lets you loop Yawn over and over without much risk. Unfortunately, this makes this boss fight really boring. So after a couple of games of Ring Around the Rosie, Yawn finally bites the dust, and drops a book with the metal inside that we'll need later on. We take this battery and make our way back to the residential courtyard, where we use that square crane to open up this waterfall and make our way in. It's here in this tunnel system that we find the captain of Bravo team, Enrico Marini. And honestly, I'm just gonna let this cutscene play out. I was on call with my buddy Will for the last stretch of this game, and hearing his reaction to this was priceless.
Is that voice Enrico's?
It's just like learning
You're alive.
the map.
Stop!
Hey, Enrico.
Are you with anybody, Jill?
No.
No.
But why?
The stars
Damn.
are finished.
She's bad.
Someone is a traitor.
Who's that?
Umbrella set us up.
You gotta get shot? Oh no.
Rico!
I thought he was gonna get shot in the head though. I'm gonna be 100.
While here in this tunnel, we meet Lisa again, who's more of a non-issue than last time, get betrayed by Barry, and kill Black Tiger the Spider. You know, Spider with the name of a tiger. Now that I'm saying it out loud, God, these names are so dumb. We make it out after that Barry betrayal I mentioned earlier, and find ourselves back in Lisa's cabin. By the way, if it seems like I'm glossing over the fact that Barry betrayed Jill, it's because the game itself pretty much glosses over that fact, so it's not like I'm giving it less attention than the game itself. We say goodbye to the resident portion of this game once and for all, and make our way into the main hallway, where we use these two metal objects to go down this ominously long stairway and find who else but Barry. This time, we're not giving him the chance to betray us, so we take his gun and hold him up.
When you've been murdering everything on the floor.
You're alive.
Yeah, I'm fucking alive.
What's his name again?
Barry.
Yeah, fuck you, Barry.
Calm down. I didn't want to do it. Believe me, I can explain.
Shoot him, Jill.
That gun's the size of her head.
On God. Shoot him, Jill.
I can't. I'll get the bad ending. He's actually a good guy. They just have his family.
Oh, fuck. Is that gonna close the thing now? Oh, it
No
did.
time to talk. Jill, hand me my gun. Thanks, Jill.
I thought he was gonna shoot her.
Now this is the last time we run into Lisa, and thanks to Barry, this is a cakewalk. All we need to do is push off these 4 boulders holding the coffin closed, and Lisa will take her mother's skull and fall into the pit. We then take those eagle and wolf medals that we found earlier in the game on this fountain, so that way we can finally make our way to the final proper section of this game, the Umbrella Laboratory. This section is very short, consisting of a few rooms at most, but it does introduce one last new enemy, the Chimera. These little bastards are the only real enemies of the game that cling to ceilings, so aim high and blast their ass in the next week with a good old Lucky Charm. Not a lot actually happens here until the end, other than a cute little reference to Ada Wong, so I'll give you the quick version. We find this password gate that we can unlock with MO discs in certain parts of the lab. While 2 of 3 MO discs can be found here in the lab, the first one is actually found a little bit earlier by completing this tiger bust puzzle. After uploading all the MO discs, we unlock this door to Chris, who I almost forgot was in this game because he's been locked up the entire time. We can't get to him right now, but this will pay off later. The next notable and honestly most intense part of this game is right here. You have to take this capsule of fuel and take it to the reactor area to refuel it. But there's a big catch. If you run, take damage, or shoot a heavier weapon than the pistol, the force of the vibrations will cause the fuel to combust on your person, turning Jill into pieces faster than a Lego man's death. But if you make sure to clear out all the rooms first and walk the whole way, you'll be alright. But it's probably best to drop a save just in case. You never know. After this, we restore energy to a nearby elevator where the truth is revealed.
Wesker!
Thank you, Barry.
Well, what do you know?
Oh, don't blame Barry for everything. I hear that his better half and 2 lovely daughters will be in danger if he doesn't do everything I tell him to.
Wesker, you're pathetic.
Well, you shouldn't worry too much, dear. You'll be free of all this anyway.
Why eliminate stars?
Believe it or not, that's Umbrella's intention.
You're just a slave of Umbrella.
Smart girl, but I think you misunderstand me. The things you mention are nothing. I'll burn all of them along with this entire laboratory. Barry, go up on the ground and wait there.
Barry.
You gotta love Barry. He must really be afraid of Umbrella.
You and Umbrella took his family, you bastard. Oh!
Umbrella? Well, I used some carrots and sticks to cow him, but it had nothing to do with Umbrella. I just used Barry for my personal interests. Though both you and Barry seem to think I was following Umbrella's orders.
What? What are you planning?
I guess it's time for show and tell. It's magnificent.
For the sake of this thing.
You know, I hate goodbyes.
Barry!
Forgive me.
No, you're not to blame. It's Umbrella and Wesker.
Even if it meant my family, I couldn't bear turning my back on my friends again. Shit! Damn it!
Jill and Barry together. In hell.
You want a piece of me?
What? Premature.
The cutscene's not supposed to do that. The cutscene's lagging.
Wesker's dead. I know, Barry. Bro, I felt violated, bro. Barry betrayed us again.
And here it is. The culmination of all of Wesker and Umbrella's research. The Tyrant. This battle is tough. Tyrant can deal incredible amounts of damage and can take hits like a tank. You're going to need to bring your A game to this fight and pull out all the stops, and he's dead. Yep, you saw that right. This horrifying creature that was supposedly Wesker's pride and joy went down to 4 acid rounds from a police-issued grenade launcher. Now, you might have noticed by now, but I'm actually playing the game on easy mode. However, based on how the game presents its options, you'd be mistaken for thinking that this is actually the normal mode. You see, the game doesn't actually present its difficulties as easy, normal, or hard. Instead, it asks you a stupid question that vaguely implies difficulty. Hell, you don't actually unlock hard mode until you beat the game at least once on the save file. It's a stupid thing that always trips me up, and I had nowhere else to put this rant, so it's going here, okay? Okay. Anyways, while that rant was going on, Wesker escaped and activated the self-destruct sequence for the lab. So we escape with Barry, nab Chris, and make our way to the surface where we get to fight a slightly more dangerous version of the Tyrant. But really only because he can do this. Self-defense gun!
Death. Just ragdolls.
Oh!
Oh my god.
But not to worry. Brad decides to actually help us out here at the end and drops a rocket, so we can finally put an end to this waking nightmare once and for all. Later!
Egger. Penny and stocking.
This game was incredible to come back to. I absolutely love every single thing about this game, from the design of the mansion, to the music, to the puzzles and creatures that inhabit the mansion. Admittedly, this game isn't really scary to me anymore, even more so now that I can basically draw the main mansion's map by memory from this point. But I don't want to discredit the atmosphere this game builds. It's plenty creepy and will definitely freak out first-time players looking for that spooky vibe. Unfortunately for me, all that spook kind of wears off when Spencer Mansion is basically my home away from home. I love this game, and I always will. It helped shape me into enjoying the kind of things I enjoy now. From back when I watched my uncle play it on the GameCube, to this playthrough here 22 years later after the game's release. This game is really cheap. It's about 20 bucks on Steam and any console you can find it on, and I truly recommend you try this out. Again, this is one of my favorite games of all time, and once you play it, I truly feel like you'll understand the reason why if you're into horror. Resident Evil is a special series to me, and I can't wait to talk about the rest of the remakes, for better and for worse. Next up is Resident Evil 2, and the introduction to the best character this series has to offer. So until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.
Oh, fuck, Tails. My bad. I didn't mean to miss your quinceanera.
Hey, you're just in time for my slideshow presentation.
Oh.
Yeah. So this is the Umbrella slideshow presentation. As you can see, this is our first experiment. This is the Cerberus. Now, tested in the field, it's just a dog. If you shoot it enough with a gun, it's going to go down. But our next one, the Neptune, is a motherfucking shark. Now, as we've gathered from the combat data, the shark is extremely weak to electricity. You push a generator on its forehead, it's going to shock it to death immediately. Not very well, but I think you'll like what we have next. The Hunters. More resilient, fast, reptilian in nature, so they're kind of cool, just off base. Unfortunately, we have discovered recently, due to Jill Valentine, their one weakness. Shotgun shells.
Oh.
But we think this next one's going to solve that problem. This is T002, the Tyrant. You see that big old claw hand right there? That's going to claw any shotgun shells away, that's for sure. We don't see any foreseeable reason why this would fail. But for some reason, we do have it listed here that it might be weak to a bit of a grenade launchers. But, you know, we're testing this on police forces. There's no reason they'd have a grenade launcher with them.
What if they do, though?
Thank you very much. As you can see, this is my associates. This right there on the very right is Albert Wesker. You know, Stars team, Alpha team, a lead member, Albert Wesker.
Why is he the only guy that looks like he shouldn't be there?
I don't know. Have you seen the dude on the very left?
I mean, yes, but like, dude, first off, his jacket is undone. He has fucking aviators on. Like what do you want?
Bro, he wears his sunglasses at night.
Truly, bro, his future's too
Bro,
bright.
why is the guy in the fucking center look like he's doing like the duck lip thing?
And then the guy on the left, he's just like, who the fuck is this guy?
Bro, he looks like he's like saw a horror and like he's just befounded. Then like there's the two people in the back, like the guy looks like he definitely wants to hit on the woman.